it takes a little bit longer to get at fear, because if you've taken Psych 140, you don't get separation and stranger anxiety until 7, 8, 9 months, once the baby's got a little more memory. Some dimensions of temperament you get the first few months of life, some the second 6 months of life. Effortful controls, we just said not till about 12 months, and then you can measure it very well at 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, etc. How stable is temperament? Remember our two definitions of stability? Well, babies who may be very active normally get less so the average level goes down. But what about the rank order? How early can you predict problem behavior or delinquency or depression from an infant's behavior? Very fearful babies, very inhibited babies at 9 and 10 months have a much higher likelihood of years later becoming somewhat depressed, shy, and anxious, much more internalizing. This isn't perfect because the biology might shift as the kids mature, and again, as we'll say in a second, it's how the parents respond to that temperament that really may shape the patterns. High active babies are more likely to get ADHD, but effortful control, as I just said, is actually the stronger predictor. If you measure temperament at 2.5 or 3, and you get a kid who's very difficult and very active, that's a pretty strong predictor of who's going to be in juvenile hall about 14 years later. So there's certain dimensions of temperament that if they stick around from 6 months to about 2 or 3 years, and you start to put them together, now the predictions get better. What did Chess and Thomas say? Temperament's really important, but then they went into homes, and they said, what really matters is how does the family adapt to, hang with, or gently mold? What's the fit? So you can imagine two very kind of neat and orderly parents, and they get a very active, fussy baby, and it's like, what happened to our world? And they fight fire with fire, and they try to force the kid into a schedule, and two other parents, same temperament kid, and they say, what a delight to have such an exuberant child. And we'll sort of adapt our family to that. So this is what Chess and Thomas mean about fit. You're not going to go in and change the kid's biology very radically at all. But maybe what parents have to do is hold on to their standards but somewhat adapt so that the kid feels welcome. And there's incredible cases. If you're interested in temperament, go back to the Chess, Thomas, and Birch original book, 1964, and then their follow-up studies, where they look from 6 months to 6 years into the teenage years, and even in some cases adulthood, how persistent were those temperamental traits, and what about the families that found a way to fit their kid in and adapt versus the families that couldn't do that? Huge area of interest showing what? It is transactional. The early biology clearly matters, but again, that early environment may make some kids not have that welcome home and other kids somehow learn to adapt. Big question for a parent is, well, do I give up my principles altogether? Do I adapt totally? Or do I try to mold the kid? Very tough questions. When does temperament become personality? When does negative affect in a kid become neuroticism in a teenager or adult? If you know the answer, we'll publish together, we'll both become famous. Nobody's quite sure. Because temperament is sort of the substrate of later developing personality. Some people say, well, you can measure temperament at 10 and 15 years of age. Other people say temperament's an infant construct, and then once you get past, say, grade school, temperament kind of molds itself into styles of personality. Big, open question that no one is sure yet. Now, a question first. So this is one of the criticisms. Parents matter. But in some ways, temperament, when it became sort of a famous construct, 70s, 80s, 90s, people said two things. First, temperament matters more than we thought. Inborn biological differences do matter. You can't change your kid's temperament. You might be able to mold it. So temperament in some ways gets parents a little bit off the hook. What's the other big thing? It's what we talked about 12 minutes ago. Shared environments don't matter nearly as much as we used to think. Genes matter a lot. The unique experiences a kid has in a home matter a lot. So parenting, some critics would say, look, you're kind of stuck with your kids. Hang on for dear life. See you in 20 years. Good luck. And others say, no, you still can have very strong expectations as a parent, but maybe you don't expect the big effects we used to expect. Question? That's right. So siblings, any two siblings, including fraternal twins, on average, they share 50% of their parents' genes, but not exactly the same ones. Identical twins are clones, right? They've got 50% from each parent identical to each other. So again, it's this whole question of, with identical versus fraternal twins, is it that they're identical genetically that makes them similar, or is it the fact they were treated the same, or is it the fact they're treated the same because they look the same? So it's this infinite loop. Hard to tell. Question here. So what is the difference between temperament and personality? It depends on which theoretical model you're in and which age you're looking at. Usually temperament is the first few years of life, activity level, rhythmicity, intensity, effortful control, and we think that kids who have certain of those temperamental traits or constellations are more likely to emerge sometime before the age of 10 or 15 with more neurotic or extroverted or agreeable traits. It's kind of like a slow emergence of personality from temperament. Where's the dividing line? Depends on your theoretical model, depends on who you study with. Other questions on temperament? Attachment, big concept. This is one of the most interesting concepts in all of psychology. Why? Because it's really evolutionary, and it's really individual psychology with very much psychoanalytic origins too. So what's the deal? We're primates. Primates need a long time to develop because primates have pretty big brains smashed inside their skulls. Primates need to learn a lot to develop their social skills and for humans academic skills. And primates, we're pretty darn smart, but we're not very big or fast compared to our predators, so we've got a big problem. We barely get kids born. Until very recently in human history, more than half the kids died, and a lot of them died because of predators or disease. So primates had to, the argument goes, we had to evolve as parents, primate parents. If our kids are distressed, we freak out. We're going to get them close back again. And if kids are distressed, they're going to do things like cry and whine in ways that draw their parents in. So there's a mutual evolution of contact. Because if we didn't have that, if a baby's cry wasn't about the most annoying sound you can hear, ever been on an airplane with an infant, right? Oh, I'm going to get a nap now, I'm flying in the air. I mean, it's a terrible sound. And we're wired to, we can't sleep. But this is evolution, that the theory goes. That sound is going to be so noxious, we're going to do anything to get the baby calm again. And the baby's going to pull out all its tricks to get the parent closer again. Because if we didn't do that, we would have survived as a species. So attachment has an evolutionary basis. Primates and humans especially, because human babies take so long to develop, etc. You're not going to survive unless you stay pretty close to that parent for first year, second year, third year. Human kids are pretty helpless for a long time. So this is species general. Parents are wired to adore little babies, and you coo over them, and you say how cute, and the way their faces are wired to them. Babies are wired to, if the parent goes too far, I'm not doing so well, I'm hungry, I need your comfort. So that's the evolutionary part. And the attachment theorists say by about the second 6 months of life, babies are not speaking yet, but their minds are pretty active, they start to see, you know, I've got a parent who's always there for me, or pretty much always, versus I don't know if I can count on this dude or gal, right? They don't attune to me very well. So this starts to get at the individual difference part. So all primates have this evolved attachment system, but some parents are very responsive to their infants. And other parents, for a whole lot of reasons, maybe they weren't attached to very well when they were young, or maybe they've got unemployment, or maybe substance abuse, or they have a harder time being as responsive and sensitive. So even though attachment is evolutionary and species-wide, there's going to be some differences. So by about 1 year of age, across most cultures that have been studied, around 2/3 of babies seem to be pretty nicely bonded to and attached to their parents. But the other third, there's been, again, the assumption is something hasn't been attuned right, there hasn't been enough sensitivity, and the babies aren't as securely attached. So the idea is this first year of life, this relationship you have with your caregivers is going to matter a lot for how you do in your future. Now, how do we know this? Well, if you just watch moms or dads hanging out with their 9 or 10 or 11-month-olds, it's hard to see unless, oh, the parents got to go get the phone, or dinner's on the stove, and the kid's left alone. You have to, the theory goes, you've got to stress this attachment system. You've got to get the kid isolated for a few minutes to see how the kid responds, and then how the parent does when they're back. So the assessment model is something called the strange situation. And if you've studied psychomotor, taken a course with Professor Main, you know all about this. It's a systematic way of bring person into Tolman Hall or your clinic or your lab, and dad and kid are hanging out for a few minutes, and then there's a whole series of this. Dad's called out, baby's alone for a little, then the research assistant comes in, they're all three together, then the research assistant leaves, then the research assistant's there, and then the dad leaves, and so you're stressing the kid. The kid's going like, hey, my attachment system is under attack, because I don't know what the stranger's doing in here, and I don't know why dad took off, and so this is the idea. You're not going to see the attachment system or behaviors get going unless you stress it. So what can you do? First, you can see how the kid behaves when the parent's out of the room for a couple of minutes. Then you can see, what does the kid do when mom or dad comes back, the reunion behavior. Let's see, we've got about 9 minutes. Let's see if we can get through this. So based largely on the reunion behavior, not so much on the separation behavior, we'll go to the bottom part of the slide first. Again, about 2/3 of kids, they're pretty upset when their parent leaves. But when their parent comes back, fairly soon, they go like, where the hell were you? Glad to see you. God, that seemed like forever. And hang out, and then start to explore, crawl away. So secure attachment is marked by a lot of security on the reunion, and then the kid's like, okay, I think it's time to explore a little bit. But then when you look at strange situation tapes, as the kid's crawling away, it's like, okay, and then they look back. Are you still there? They're checking back to make sure that the parent's there. That's secure attachment. Obviously, I'm being pretty general, but this is the general code. However, there are some kids who parent leaves, and the parent comes back, and the kid's like cold shoulder. Oh, you think you're back? You think I care? The kid is like not showing much reunion behavior. So the idea is there must have been something in that bond that was first 8, 9, 10, 11 months of life that has made the kid wary. The kid's not going to give a lot back. There's another type of insecurity where the parent goes out and comes back, and the kid is like, oh my God, you're back, and is almost trying to make sure you never leave again. The kid's very emotionally aroused, almost trying to prevent another separation. And again, the theory is maybe the kid hasn't had that security of attachment before, and they're over-concerned about being left again. Then, a discovery, one of the greatest scientific discoveries of the 20th century in psychology by Professor Mary Main. For a long time, they were doing this research, and there were some babies they couldn't really classify very well. They didn't seem really either secure or insecure, but if you look really closely at the tapes, the babies were very frozen and frightened when the parent would come back. So this doesn't occur. This is a few % of the time, but it turns out very disorganized attachment. It's not even secure, insecure. The baby is like grappling for how to handle this. It's often a sign of abuse, pretty severe abuse in the first year of life. So why would this occur? Back to the top. The idea is during those first few months when the baby's pre-verbal, they've got a little model formulating in their mind of, again, how reliable is this dude or gal? Can I count on them? Can I really use them as a secure base when they come back, or am I going to have to kind of be on my own, or kind of ignore them, or be overly attached to them in some ways, or maybe it was so frightening I don't really have an organized way of relating to them at all. So this is the assumption that attachment is predicted by what? The responsiveness of the parent during that first year of life. It's very relational. Very different from temperament. Now here's an interesting fact. If you're looking at strange situations, and you look at babies, how they respond when the parent is yanked out of the room, their temperament predicts that a lot. Some babies are like, okay, I know you'll be back. Oh, it's great to see you. What a nice break. Another baby's like, where is she? That's predicted by their temperament a lot. But the reunion behavior is not predicted by temperament much at all. The reunion behavior is predicted more by the in-home observations of how responsive the parent has been before. Make sense? So some people would say, well, attachment it's not a relational thing. Some babies are just predisposed to freak out when their parents leave. Separation behavior is predicted more by temperament, reunion behavior more by the strength of the bond. So it's interesting. And here's what's really interesting. If it's all just temperament, if some babies don't like their parents to leave, why is it the case, and it's often the case, a baby can be very insecurely attached to mom, but very securely attached to dad. So the relationship, the dyad, is what's secure, not the baby is secure and insecure in general. So this is what gives attachment theorists some ground to stand on when they say, yeah, temperament might matter some, but what really matters for the reunion is the quality of the relationship with that particular parent. Make sense? What do you do with a 3-year-old or 5-year-old? You're not going to put them in that strange situation. That's what you do with infants. Well, sometimes you can just have more of for a 5-year-old, the parents and kids are in the playroom talking, and the parents called out, oh, you got to fill out one more form, and you just watch the kid for a few minutes and watch. So it's just one simple separation and reunion. Or you can give kids when they're a little bit older adjective checklists or scales or even semi-projective tests to see how bonded their responses make you feel that they are. So we talked about temperament. Does temperament predict later outcome? Temperament by 3 does more than at 6 months, but it's somewhat predictive. What about attachment? If you look at securely attached babies and insecurely attached babies and follow them up for years, there are some differences, especially in relationships, less so academically, but there's a lot of moderators. Boys versus girls with secure versus insecure attachments have different patterns. There's mediators. Babies who are very insecurely attached at 12 months, if their parents get into treatment or therapy or get a job, the attachment can get much more secure by 24 or 36 months. And it's those later attachments that predict then preschool, elementary school, junior high behavior better. So attachment is just like temperament, is just like genes. It's a risk factor. Very few people would today say, except for dyed-in-the-wool attachment theories, attachment's everything. That's what the psychoanalysts used to say 50 years ago. But a very insecure attachment, especially in the presence of other things going on at the time and later in the child's development, might predispose a kid to have real relationship problems. A very disorganized attachment, which may reflect abusive treatment, is a pretty big predictor of later severe externalizing behavior and aggression. Attachment's one of many risk factors. But is it a vulnerability? Well, insecure attachment the first year of life, it sets a template. You can view it as a risk factor or a vulnerability. Vulnerabilities aren't just biological. Some people would consider a genetic difference a vulnerability and insecure attachment a risk factor. Some would consider insecure attachment a vulnerability as well, because it occurs so early. Alan Strofe, developmental psychologist at Minnesota, did strange situation assessments on several hundred kids and then brought them back as teenagers to summer camps. Pretty good predictions of the friendships kids made from the security or insecurity of their attachment 15 years earlier, but not perfect. Moderators, mediators, there's multiple risk factors. We got 30 more seconds. Another discovery of Professor Naines is the adult attachment interview. You can take this if you go into a research study, or you can sit down and ask me if I'm a subject in the study about 5 adjectives to describe my mom, 5 my dad, or my 2 dads or 2 moms, depending, and how I dealt with early experiences. And based on how I, not what I say, but the quality of my speech, you can say, as an adult, I'm securely or insecurely attached, and that predicts very strongly the attachment security of my infant to me. So maybe some attachment templates stick around a long time. That's temperament, that's attachment, and we'll pick up on this next time. See you next week.